Hi, very good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's ASAP online class. As all you know, today's session is for the English students, and the topic that we are going to discuss today is Amnesty, which is a short story written by Nadine Gordimer. And to handle the session, we have Sister Angela, Assistant Professor in English from Little Flower College, Guruvayu. Hearty welcome, sister. And before we start the session, dear participants, please be noted that all your doubts and queries with regard to the topic can be posted in the Q&A option, which you can see on your screen. And Sister Angela will be addressing all these queries towards the end of the session. So thank you so much, and now with you, sister.
Hello and peace and joy to everybody. So to begin with, let me, you all know that we are dealing with this second semester Zeitgeist textbook and we are doing amnesty. This is because, I want to avoid confusions that which lesson is being dealt and which university it is. It comes under Calicut University syllabus. All right. So let us begin. And before beginning, let me tell you the things that you need to have while this session progresses. First thing, you need to have your textbook. Textbook is very essential. If you didn't have your textbook, you will not come to know what and where we are dealing with. And maybe you would have read the short story, or you wouldn't have read the short story. But anyway, be alert, be prepared. Okay, that is there. And then the next thing that you need is a paper and a pencil, because please write down all that you need to all that is told here. My slides won't have many things on the my ppt won't have many things on that. First of all, outline of the story. The setting is a farm or a township in South Africa, and the point of view is the first person. First person point of view, for those who are aware of it and for those who are not aware of it, it will be like telling your story by yourself. So you say, I went there, I came here. That kind of narration, this is called first person point of view. And then specifically, the narrator is a South African young lady, young woman. So it is that perspective that we give, that point of view that you have in the story. Now, what is the story? A boy meets the girl, loves the girl, and etc. etc. I have divided the plot diagram into some sections. This can be done to any story. So first there is the exposition, where where you come into contact with who and who is who and where this is. So you introduce a narrator. First, in the first scene itself, the story itself begins with she is running in the vast field there. So she is there. So we are introduced to the narrator, and then we speak about the narrator's lover. The daughter is there. Narrator's family is there. Her lover's family is there, and so many people are there. So this is the exposition. We are introduced to these people. Then the rising action is that what is going on in the story. Okay, so the story is like this. And one more thing, the story is told in flashback mode for a certain part. Okay, the story begins in present time, then she recounts what happened in the past, comes back to the present time, and then goes to the future. That is the way the story moves. You would have observed such things in your movies also. Okay, so you start here, then you go back, come this side, come to the present, and then continue. That is the way the story goes. What happens in the story is, the story is 9 years back or 6 years back from the time of what she is speaking now. Or rather, it can be 9 years back from the time that she is speaking now. So, what happened then? 9 years back, she had met in her own township. Maybe this boy is her neighbor or someone. They fall in love. That much is not given very exactly in the story. But we come to know that one vacation when he comes, he asks for her hand from the father, and okay, their marriage is somewhat fixed, and they decide to marry after 3 years. This is their setup. So he proposes, he asks her father very formally, and then they are agreed on that point. And then their culture is like the groom has to pay the bride money, so he is working and paying for her. That is a setup there. Nice, beautiful setup. And then that is their dream, to set up a home, to set up a family, and live like that. That was that 9 years back. But then 1 year after all these things. When she has got engaged, 1 year after this, they find that he has joined into some trade union where he is working. So they are in the country. The girl, her family, and the boy's family all are in the village. But in the town, what happened? These men go work there. There he has joined trade union or something like that, and gets into trouble, and then they come to know that he is in prison, or at the most he is caught for some crime. Don't know where he is, and he is in trial. So this is the condition after the second year. By this time, she is carrying also. They're not married, but they're engaged. She is carrying. And then during the trial, she meets him. And in one of the trial, in the third year, you find that during trial, he gets 6 years sentence. By that time, their child is born, and she takes the child to him. The child is growing with both the sets of grandparents. She is the only youngster at home because she is a daughter. She has three brothers. Two among them are in the city, and they don't send money home. For his parents, he is the son. He is already in prison. No one else to care. So she is working for both her parents and his parents. The child is being looked after by that whole large family. She has another brother who is working in the village. This is the setup there. All right. And then you come to know that Inkuleleku. This is the name the man gives to her, to their daughter, their baby girl. The name is very, very, very beautiful name. If you want, you can put it on your pen. You can name your pen or your bike or something like that. It means freedom. It means freedom. It's a very, very beautiful name. And another point to be understood in this whole story, only one person is named, and that is this girl, Inkululeku. Inkululeku. Only she is named. No place, no person is named in this whole story. And this particular name means freedom. So there itself, you will understand why and what the story is leading to. All right. So during the trial, he is sentenced for 6 years, 6 years of imprisonment, and this he is sentenced to because he is a trade unionist member, and he has contributed in creating riots in his locality. Okay. The rest of the okay, if you go and read the story properly, it is mentioned detail in that. I'm just giving an outline. Now the climax. What is the climax there? The climax is the present situation. This was flashback. What happened all these times? Okay, and in between you have various times like she visits him during the trial, or she tries to visit him with his parents in the place in the they are imprisoned in an island. The island is not named. They are these men who are sentenced to are for this particular case are imprisoned in an island. So she tries to catch a ferry and go to that island, but they are denied because they didn't know that they need a permit slip. So they reach the port to catch the ferry, but then they are denied access because they do not have permit. So she doesn't meet, and they communicate with letters. So letters are sent, and all such things are happening in between. But she doesn't meet him, and she is waiting, waiting and waiting for him to come back. Now 6 years imprisonment, but one fine day you come to know that after 5 years, his imprisonment is over or something like that, cut short, and the time is over. Now he is sent back home early. This is where the climax comes. After five years of imprisonment, he is coming back. He is coming back from the prison. Now, what do you think she feels? She is happy to receive him, but then she is anticipating what kind of a person he would have become, and then she has a version of him in her mind, and but she is also anxious because she has not got sufficient time to prepare. Actually, when they told that it is 6 years, she has already stretched her heart to wait till 6 years. And now when she thinks about in the course of time, he has lost his father and his mother lives with her uncle because they have lost their house. Now she is thinking that he will not be having a house to take her in, to take her and her child in. So what can she do now? She needs time to prepare. If this was known earlier, she could have prepared a house for him and such things. So many things are there in his house. The real climax is when he comes back. He's totally different from what is imagined, what we think he was to be. Like he has grown fat and he is well dressed and he is come, like a person from foreign or somewhere like that. He is coming back like that. And then you have a lot of time. Many people come to visit him. He is totally changed. This person is not the person. He is not the boy who had gone 9 years back. He is someone else. He has grown into a man or a politician or something like that. In her view, he is someone like when you read through the story, details of the story, you will come to know that he was a smart young person. And then he used to be very fluent. They are not speaking English; they speak their own language, Afrikaans and such language. So and they are poor. They work a lot. They work on the boyer's field, but they work and they do not get sufficient money. This is the situation there. So all these conditions are there. That is the reason why she could not go and meet him in the island. They have to save up money, and after one visit, they lost all their money, so they have to make, and they could not visit. So when he comes back, he is not going for a new job. He is actually in another world, and he is thinking a lot of things in his mind. She thinks of something else, but she cannot, she cannot actually connect with the person. And another thing is like she had trained her daughter, who is almost 5 years now. She doesn't know her father. She has never met her father, other than what he named her, but she has never met her father. So she shows her daughter a photograph, and this is your father. But then, no, when the person comes, he is entirely different from the skinny, thin, young person shown in the photo. And actually, he is changed in his essence also. So that's why the child doesn't easily mingle with this person. She herself is distanced from this. So this is the climax. Now the falling action comes like in this part where there are comrades coming to their house. They have meetings there, and they have all the kind of work there, but no inflow of money coming. And her father is afraid because the boys who own the land might come to know what this noise is and all such things, and he might come and give a notice. Okay, you and your family get out of my land. He may come and say so. He is afraid of that. Her father is afraid of that. But there is no telling to these people, these comrades. They come, they discuss, and she sees that he discusses in such vigor. He is such a powerful man. He has such powerful ideas. And in a point that she also is interested to listen to all these things. That is the situation there. And she finds herself pregnant for the second time, but she is not married yet. And in his framework, there is no slot for marriage. It is going on like that. Now, finally, it is a kind of resolution. Like the last lines are very very beautiful, very beautiful. It is a single word line: waiting. I am waiting to come back home. I am waiting for him to come back home. Both. She is waiting for him to come back home. She is waiting, and she is waiting for everything to be normal again. Everything to be how it was previously. So this is the story, only the story. But there are so many background instances in this story, like it is a painting, just like what I show in this slide. All right. My writing on this slide is the main thing. But then you can see an African woman here, isn't it? A woman carrying a pot. I didn't do it intentionally, but to explain it to you now, it is very good, very easy. So the lady carrying the pot is the main actor in this story, but there are so many background things here. There are trees, there is a sunset, there is a giraffe and an elephant telling you where she is standing, where she belongs to, all such things. So this, what I narrated now, what I told now is the outline of the story, but there are so many things behind in the background of the story. In the background, you find that they are poor, they are working. They are not poor because they slandered. They squandered their money in gambling or something, drinking alcohol or anything like that. No, it was not the case. They are working, but they do not get sufficient money. Then there are other instances where they are not getting sufficient things. They do not have proper place to stay. They don't have transport or communication facilities are not there. So these things are in the background. Now, what other things are there in this particular story? We'll come to know about that when we go to the historical context of the story. So I wrote Inkululeku because that single word gives you a lot of meaning in this story. It means freedom, and freedom from what? That you can come to know. Now, when you think about Africa, you come to know about racial discrimination, segregation, all these things. But that is in the context of the Afro Americans, isn't it? Afro Americans. So there you can understand that, okay, they take these African people to be Negroes, or they take them to be slaves, because Africans were brought to America as slaves. So there might be a kind of, okay, they are slaves, that kind of a thing would be there, and so they are segregated. You might think that you might take it, you might take that segregation in that aspect. But why this is happening in Africa itself? Africa is the country of the Africans. Then what is happening there? So to know that, you need to know some little bit of the history of Africa here. Not much. You can go and Google it to know much, but I'm telling you only so much that you understand the story, you understand the context of the story. All right. So in the 14th and 15th, yeah, European exploration of the African coast began in the 13th century. It is in this time when the Portuguese came to Africa. Actually, they were finding a new Silk Route to China. China and India and all these places where they got spice, silk, and all these things. Silk was a very costly commodity, a commodity that was highly in demand. So when other routes were blocked, I mean, when the Ottoman Turks came and the Turks came and captured the Constantinople. At that time, 1453, I think, at that time, the trade route, land route was blocked. So when the land route was blocked, we people tried to find a sea route. It is that time they came to know that Africa is there, Cape Town is there, and they came and stopped in a place called Cape of Good Hope, because that is a landing after a voyage of a long distance. So they find Africa, they find America, all these in this particular time. So Africa, African coast, Europeans become interested in this African coast. In the 14th and 15th century, what happened? Portuguese come there, settle down there, and they do a lot of things. You should know, Africans were already people who were already settled. If you say civilization means having a particular culture, if you think that the term civilization means having a particular culture and order of their own, they were civilized. They had their own order, they had their own culture, and they had their own tradition. But it was different from the people, the colonizers who landed there and tried to enslave them. So this happened in the 14th and 15th century, and what more to say? They started capturing people. They started treating people like animals. They kidnapped them, took them to various other colonies where they needed manpower to work. So it is like it is that instance where Africans from here landed up in America as slaves. Okay, that thing is there. Then next, what happened? The Dutch East India Company came and settled there. They come and settle. They were the main colonizers of Africa. They held a lot of place there, especially Cape Town. And these people settled there, started living there, and they are the warriors that we come to know of later on. These people learned the African language, mingled with those Africans, real natives there, but they were not friendly. They were masters, and the natives were slaves. That is the situation they maintain. And next, what happens? We have the Anglo-Boer War, and after the Anglo-Boer War, we set up the Union of South Africa. Nothing much improvement. The Africans were slaves as usual. They had a lot of discrimination going on. And finally, what you come to know is in 1948 to 1994. In 1948, they implemented a rule called apartheid. Apartheid, now, today we come to understand the term as segregation, racial segregation. Segregating some a set of people because of their race. All right, that is what we come to know. That is the meaning of apartheid that we know. Actually, apartheid is an Afrikaans word. Afrikaans word means that is a sect language in Africa, and that word in their language meant separateness. Separateness. You are separating me from you. You are not giving anything that belongs to you to me. You are separating me so that this separation is somewhat near to rejection. That kind of separation. All right. So this came to be implemented from 1948 onwards. How far is this correct? How much is this correct? How much can you bear these things? So after a lot of terrorism, after a lot of struggle, the African National Congress achieved victory and democracy prevailed in Africa. And from then onwards, African National Congress has governed South Africa in an alliance with South African Communist Party and the Congress of South African Trade Unions. The trade union mentioned here in this story is the initial stages of these trade union. That is why I came to tell you all these stories, all this history. Now, another word that we have, the title of the story is amnesty. Amnesty, the word amnesty actually means an official pardon for people who have been convicted for political offenses. Definitely, the protagonist in the story, if he is forgiven, or there would be a chance, not in the story. In the story, again and again, he is caught, put in the prison. Now he is caught, put in the prison. After 5 years, he is sent back. Maybe he was pardoned of his offenses, but he is still continuing the movement. So he would be caught again and be released again. That would happen. So this is the context of amnesty. But there is another thing called AI, or the Amnesty International. It is a non-governmental organization with the headquarters in the United Kingdom, focused on human rights. We speak about human rights here, and the main theme of the story is human rights. All right. And what they wanted, their vision is a world in which every person enjoys all the human rights enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Actually, the story Amnesty and the book. Now, if you go and see the introduction, you will come to know. See, the story Amnesty was actually originally published in 1991 in New Yorker, the New Yorker, and later included in the collection called Jump and Other Stories. It was also selected to an anthology called Freedom in 2009. Remember Freedom? That's the book's name, and published by Amnesty International. It was an occasion when they celebrated the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So in that occasion, in 2009, when they were celebrating the anniversary, this story was included in Freedom, in the book called Freedom. So two, three places you can see Amnesty published. First, it was published in 1991. Then it was published separately as a book called Jump and Other Stories by Nadine Gordimer. And then you can see this story in the anthology called Freedom in 2009 also. So this is the context. So that is the word amnesty there. Okay, so much done. Now you have some more things to go on. I actually want to see the check on with the time again and again because I am known to delay all these things. Okay, the next thing that we have. Okay, these are a few difficult words which you find in the story. One place in the story you will come to know that the lady is hoeing. Hoe is this particular tool, and hoeing means using that tool to cultivate the land. So the main protagonist or the narrator of the story is a teacher actually. She has passed 8th standard and she teaches in the local school. On Saturdays and Sundays, on Saturday particularly when there is no school, she helps her father and mother in cultivating the land. This is hoe, and hoeing means to use this, dig the place. And they are farmers, they grow pumpkins, melons, and maize and all such things. All right. And then you have another thing called Kombi. Kombi is this kind of van. Actually, I browsed, Googled for this, and this is a modern version, not the 1970s or 1960s version. But anyway, you get an idea of what a Kombi is. This is it. It is an auto van. Okay, now we have that big auto. Bigger than that, it includes a lot of people. This was largely found in Africa in those times. And then you have a term veld. So this is a veld. Veld means vast green, vast land areas. It is like this. It is barren actually. no nothing, no vegetation is there. But then these are given by these are owned by the Boers, and they give it to these Africans. The Africans settle there and live in tin and mud huts, and they cultivate these lands. What do they get? They don't get money. They only get the vegetables that they make. The remaining share of the vegetables that they make, they get to stay there on the land. Big thing, no? And this is the way they thought. And that allowing us to stay there, allowing us to cultivate land and take a small meager amount of what we cultivated ourselves as their own. This was considered big thing. Now, who are Boers? I told you the Dutch colonizers, the Dutch settlers who came here, mingled with Africans and learned the African language. They lived here and they were the major landowners. So I have put a Boer family here for you all to see. Okay, okay with this, I think, isn't it? And then what else do I have? All right. Now I mentioned an island there, nameless island it was, and they told if you go through the story soon after this class you have a homework. In that homework you will be going through the story. I told you, the prisoners were taken into an island. They stayed in that island there. I mean, they were imprisoned in the island. This is the island. This is a true island, which is alluded to. In the story, they just say he was taken to the island, and the island is capital I. Now here, it is an allusion to this real life island. Now, when you see it, it looks like a great picnic spot, but don't be very eager to go there. It is a prison, high security prison, and this is the Reuben Island in Cape Town. Okay, Cape Town. And for your information, I thought you would like to know. This is the prison there, entrance, and these are some pictures of prisoners working. There is a quarry inside the prison, so they're working there. Hot sun, and they're working, and this is the way prisoners are kept here. And you would be knowing this most famous person, of course, Nelson Mandela. He was kept in this prison. All right, this is one thing. Okay, now the main part. We are going to discuss the themes that come in the story. The themes that come in the story, one is racial discrimination. Throughout the story, you might see the racial discrimination. Definitely. Because they are Africans, because they are black, because they are that particular race, they are not given a lot, many kinds of rights, right to education, right to knowledge, or right to proper things to live. All these things are denied to these people. Uh, there is a set of okay, so that is the discrimination that they undergo. This is connected to the next topic called human rights. This is the next theme, a major theme again. You can link it and say racial discrimination is there, and racial discrimination is there. Human rights are not given. What are the human rights they have not given? You turn to page number 78. You might see that. All right. That is a context where the narrator's fiance comes back, and he is talking to his comrades. She is sitting there to listen, and now she has listed many things that she listens to. Hmm? She is listing many things that she is listening to. So, on what are the things these people are fighting for? Why are these comrades fighting for? They are fighting for the right to. I learned what. Yeah, you have it on page 78, paragraph 1. I mean, big paragraph if you're counting. It is in the second paragraph, somewhere in the middle. You see, minimum wage, limitation of working hours, the right to strike, annual leave, accident compensation, pensions, sick and even maternity leave. So they are struggling for all these things. So, and in some other places you have, they are ignorant of many things. They do not have many things, so they want food, they want money, proper wages. So we included all these things. So we are discussing all these things for even the black race. So that is one theme in the story. They are not given it equally as it is given for the whites or the Dutch or the Boers. In that white minority is ruling there. So we want to move that. I just mentioned about you. Yeah, you see this? Somewhere I thought I had mentioned. Anyway, the white minority was ruling there, and they had yeah. Because white minority rule known officially as apartheid, and this was implemented. So this is what segregation means. They had one set of rules to get their money, and these blacks had another set of rules for them to get money. So this is violation of human rights. So we are these comrades are fighting for that also. Then you have rural life and culture as another theme here. Where do you see that? You see in the beginning itself, what do you see there? She is running through those fields, and the fields are divided. And what is she running for? There is a kind of oneness among these rural people. Okay, oneness. So one person is suffering, the whole village is suffering with that person. And one kind of small joy. Now she is the only person educated in that whole area after her fiance. Her fiance was much educated, so he went away. But after him, and it was only she who could write letters or read newspaper. So she heard that he is released on her radio, and she wants to tell it to others. So she is running. So that rural culture of oneness is shown there. Then what else do you have? You have, in one place he comes and asks her father, and he starts paying. So that is a bribe money. That is a kind of culture they have. And then in one place you have, these comrades meet in this girl's house because he is staying there. They are all staying together, and the mother of the house makes beer for the week. If she has prepared that, she shares with that. So that kind of routine, they cultivate their land, how they cultivate their land. All these things are shown. Their daily life is a theme in this story. Another thing that you should note very much is the change, the quality, or the aspect called change is another theme in the story. So from the beginning, if you take what is changing in the story, take the narrator. She was a lovesick girl, a girl who is very much committed or attached to her lover, who becomes her fiance and whom she intends to marry. She is very much committed. Later on, slowly and slowly, she becomes a mother, and she comes to realize that she becomes a mother, and she becomes a faithful daughter-in-law also. Like, she becomes a caretaker. There is a change in her. And then she not only accommodates that, she accommodates a different kind of a man. I mean, the man is same, but he is different in his essence. So she accommodates him also, and she's waiting for him to become as he was before. So you find that particular change in the narrator. And what about the man there? He was a boy when he was in this village. He just had planned to marry a girl, settle down, lead a good life, lead a quiet life. Then he goes to the town. He comes to know about many things. He was smart already, but then I mean he was intelligent already, but then he comes to see things. He comes to see the injustice done to the black people there in the workplace, in the place where they stay, the things that are denied to them in various places. So he raises voice and joins with people who raise their voice. Change number two. Then everywhere when he goes, it is like he year by year he is changing. Now he thinks only about big ideas and ideologies. That is a major change you see there. And the village itself is changing. Initially it is a rural small kind of a town, but then in the course of these 5 years, so many movements come, and there is a kind of improvement, you might say. These racial discrimination is a little bit diluted by this time. That kind of change you might see. Another change that I forgot to mention about the narrator is that towards the end of the story, she becomes more retrospective. She is thinking. She herself changes to a person who was ignorant about her rights, but then she becomes aware about these rights. Okay, that change is there. One more point about this human rights, all right, that has to be mentioned. You know, You know that you are deprived of certain things only when you know that you were destined to receive those things. You are meant to receive those things. Got it? You might have not understood. You will know that you are not given. To put it in a simple term, you will know that you are not given certain things only when you know that those certain things were meant to be yours. Hmm? That kind of a situation is mentioned in one place in the story. Okay, wherein the girl, the fiance comes back, and there are a lot of lectures happening on Saturday nights and all these things when other comrades come. So he says that we do not have a house. Why don't we have a house? He starts thinking. She had thought that she did not have time to build a house. That's why she doesn't have a house. But it is not the picture there. She really does not have the house because she doesn't have sufficient money to build a house. And she doesn't have sufficient money to build a house because she is not paid enough for what she is working. So this is the difference. So human rights and human rights issues is possible only when you know what your rights are. That is another thing that is shown there. If you are ignorant about your own rights, you will not know what is denied to you. Hmm? That is the thing. And in one point, he says that there are many places which give you information. Why didn't you go there? Especially, they traveled to Cape Town so that they can go catch a ferry and go to the island. But at the moment when they were about to board the ferry, the police asked her where her permit is. She didn't know that she needed a permit. So he gets angry there, and he says that, how come you didn't know that? How come you were ignorant about that? There are places in town where they give you information. You were not there. So that is the difference. Ignorance ignorance and then knowledge. Ignorance and knowledge. Only when you have the knowledge about the right, you know that something is denied. As long as you are ignorant about your rights, that doesn't make difference. So that also is another point you have to mention when you mention human rights. And the next 3 points are very interlinked. One is choice, the other is personal and national. Why I think that is a theme here is, you have different people in this short story. It is a short story, but then they are making different choices there. He chose nation over family. Don't you think? Can we blame him? I don't know. Think about it. Can you blame him? Yeah, we don't know. He chose to speak up rather than remain silent when he saw there was problems all over. Was it correct? But what did it cost him? It cost him his family. We don't know whether he realizes it at the point in the story, but surely his daughter doesn't recognize him. She says that you are not him. That is a situation there. And finally, he doesn't have time also for them. uh, where are his priorities, and is he wrong in making those priorities? Okay. You have the woman there, the narrator there, her choices. She chooses to remain, silent. She's waiting. Is it wrong? You decide. That is the thing. We need to think about these things, choices they make. You have the girl's father, the girl's father, the narrator's father there, narrator's father, and his choice. He is not only, he is not only silent, but he is submissive also. He is submitting himself to the boy. He knows, or God knows whether he knows or doesn't know. At least when the son-in-law comes and tell all these things, he should be knowing that he is denied of various rights. He is working on the land, and he has to get some wage for that. He is ignorant. Even if he is getting knowledge, he is submissive. He says that no, no, if the boy comes to know that, he might take away this land also. That is a choice that they make there. That is a choice each person makes. Hmm? Now she is silent also. I mean, the narrator is silent. She says that someday my daughter might come to know that he was among those old men or great men. The old men or great men, that those are the slangs used by these people. Big man, old man, that is a slang used by the Africans for their leaders, their elderly leaders. Maybe the Nelson Mandela was might be called the old man. Okay, they have not mentioned here, but their political persons, elderly political persons, are known as old man, and also the big man. Okay, so she is silent and she chooses to be silent. No, cannot explain, does not explain to her daughter that this your father also is among the great people. That. And then you have there needs to be a line, and that seems to be missing. A line that divides personal from national. Personal in the sense you go and read this story, you will come to know that the man actually he is seeing the bigger picture. Maybe he is not thinking about his family anymore. His wife is I mean his fiance is having his second child, but he is not planning to marry her, or marriage is not in his picture. Marriage is not one of his priority. What is his priority? He very beautifully explains to his wife that I am there on the island. We are there on the island so that all our people get money, all our people get their rights. So what does he prioritize? He's that line between the personal and the national is blurred there. And now when he comes to stay in her home, there is no distinction between, oh, this is her home, I need to make a home so that I can take my wife and my child there. There is no distinction there. And not only that, his comrades come, and it is mentioned very clearly. One of the comrades always holds on to her mother, saying that you are Mama Africa. You are Mama Africa. So this is not my comrade's mother-in-law. This is not her mother. This is our mother, and this is Mother Africa. So personal, national, that is change. And then they bring about all such things like culture, and they make her sing their old songs which they have got from their grandmothers. All such things are going on there. So this is the situation. This is the condition happening in this place. And then you have another thing as waiting. People wait here. Who are waiting here? That 6 years long wait is there. She is waiting. Our narrator is waiting. The country is waiting. Country is waiting for liberation. Country is waiting to be removed away from segregation. All these things. Waiting is there. And then the child is waiting for her father to come. The father also is waiting. The people, comrades are waiting. They are waiting for something different. They are waiting for the country to be liberated. It is you find the waiting even in the land. The land is also waiting for something new to happen. So waiting is another thing in this particular story. And next, what do we have? We have symbols and other devices that we are used. You can take, ocean is a symbol here. So in the beginning itself, she says that when the flashback is there, this particular prison is in an island. It is a small island. I showed the picture, no? Small island. All around it is a great deep blue-green sea. So it is a contrast between the vastness and the minuteness, littleness. So compared to this vastness, this littleness is nothing. That kind of contrast is given. So which do you choose? The vast, do you prefer to see the vast, or do you prefer to see the little? It is always repeated here in this. It is used as a motive or a symbol. So what do you see? The vast picture or the little picture? Where do you need to focus? Where do you concentrate? Can you connect this with the theme that we discussed? Personal, national. Which do you choose? Which do you have to be in? The vast picture, the liberation of the country, or the small one? People who are related to me, people who I have to pay attention to, that one. So that is a motive there. And then again, in the last paragraph, when she is saying she is sitting calm, I mean, all her waiting has turned into much more waiting. Okay, in the end, the person that comes back home is not the person who she thought was, and she is still waiting. She's still waiting for that person to come back. At this time, she is sitting on a warm rock and she is looking at the sky. So she finds a small cloud. The cloud is not big enough to create a rain, but then that cloud becomes longer and longer. So again, this small thing becoming big thing, and then see a bar of gray. This is in the last page. I'm in page number 79. Look into that. Underneath is a bar of gray, not enough to make rain. It gets longer and darker. It grows a thin snout and a long body. And then then the end is its tail. There's a huge gray rat moving across the sky, eating the sky. A kind of a strange kind of symbol this is, okay. She is looking at the sky. We too do that, and we kind of make pictures or images on in the sky, and then we finally feel that there are some things on the sky. She sees a rat there, but then the rat gets disseminated and it loses its figure. It's like the small thing that she created is becoming bigger, and it is becoming so big that it is eating the sky itself, eating the whole picture, and then it loses itself. Something like that is happened, isn't it? The man, it might be a symbol, or it might be a motive in which she sees that I had my man, or we people, these people in this story. You saw certain things, you stood for certain principles, you got attracted to certain ideas, you started taking in those ideas. Ideas are bigger than what you are. Finally, you become nothing, and you lose yourself into that idea. Something like that is there. So that is also another symbol or a motive used throughout the story. And you have the will. Well is nothing but, I told you in the beginning, it is a vast area of land where it is used to cultivate. You need to make that vastness again. Vastness compared to the minuteness. You have a vast land and you till it, You are only a small seeder. You're trying to till and cultivate the land. It is not so much, but you're trying and doing. And you have devices like hyperbole, allusion also is there, and simile in this story. I think I am running short of time. Yeah, exactly. But I'll try to finish it. I am trying to wind it up. Okay. So what is hyperbole? Some small thing you are trying to make it into a bigger thing. You have that rat stories. There's a huge gray rat moving across the sky. This is too much, okay? I mean, it is only a small cloud, but she is using a hyperbole. Hyperbole is where one big image is given for to mention something small. That is a hyperbole. And then you have a simile there somewhere. You see, last is that it could twist them away like a dog does to a fly. It twitch away like a dog does to a fly. So, like, so there are so many comparisons like that. And in the last paragraph, there is her own retrospection. I told she goes there away from home to think by herself. She is sitting on that warm rock and looking the sky and the setting sun. And when she is sitting there, she sees the town, she sees the village, she sees the huts, she sees the TV in that house, all these things from a distance. And it looks like small things. So when you go up and up, the things that you are attached to seems to be little. Maybe that is the implied meaning of this whole thing. Activist. She was a Lutheran Jewish, and she has British origin. Now these people, she is an African. When I say African, she belongs to South Africa. She was born in South Africa. That is why. Okay, she was born in 1923 in Springs, South Africa. That is why she is in South Africa. Now she is a very interesting person. You need to know. She was a great friend of Nelson Mandela's attorney. And she is one of the person whom Nelson Mandela wanted to meet immediately when he came out after releasing. And she is the person who edited his speech, I am prepared to die, that speech, which he gave on the defendant's dock. That speech she edited. So she is not an ordinary small kind of a person. She is a very, she is something. She is great. All right. She got the Nobel Prize also, but she is a person wanted to show you more than what I tell you from this. I would let her tell. It is indeed true that she is no more. She died in 2014 July. But then, yeah, this is something that I would like you all to see. It is an interesting thing. Okay, that's it. That is almost done. That is almost what I wanted to show you all. I just need to tell one or two more things. It is about the homework. Now, you all, all of you, you would be knowing that if this class was being taken at in the class in the college, definitely teachers would have made you all read this story. Now you have got the story in shortcut. I told you the story. But please do not forget to do this homework. Take your dictionary, take your textbook, write it down. Just like this girl is doing. You read the story and then take difficult words, write them out, and then understand the story by yourself, because there are lot of things that I have not told, but only in the context of you reading the story you can understand what these themes are, what these symbols are, what the outline is that I have discussed with you. That's why you need to know, you need to do that homework. So I hope you all will do that homework. I know that you are all by yourself, but you should know Ekalavya was smarter than Abhimanyu. Now you do not have a teacher always behind you in these lockdown days, but then you can get smarter. We are giving you material like this. We are taking classes online. You have to work out, just like Ekalavya had done in that mythical story. You have to work out and you have to become smarter than what you would have been if you were in the class. All right. So it is question answer time now. You can give me a question.
Okay, thank you, sister. So we have got a few questions. So the first question is like this: how would the story turn out to be if it is narrated from the husband's point of view?
According to my opinion, it would have been a narration of all his adventures, like how he landed up in prison, what all the struggles were there at home. I mean, in the workplace, how he landed up in the prison, and how he discussed things with the leaders when the people were killed, how he took their place. All these things would have been there. But the waiting part, the wife part, the child part, it would have been little, isn't it? That's quite obvious. He would surely mention that he named his daughter Freedom. That he would have mentioned. But then I wonder whether he would mention the second child at all. By that time, he is gone, completely gone. He is seeing the larger picture. That is what I felt.
Okay, thank you, sister. Next question is: apartheid was a system of institutionalized racial segregation
Yeah.
that existed in South Africa.
Yeah.
If so, what are the political references present in this story?
Political references present in the story. You just turn to page number 78. You have your what she understood by this, what these workers were fighting, those small sections what they were fighting, that they have told there. And then a little above you have, I've been thinking we haven't gone home because there, yeah, that thing. I mean, page 78, the two-line paragraph is there. Because there wasn't time to build a house before he came from the island, but we haven't got a home at all. Now I have understood that. So this is a reference where how these people didn't own land, didn't have anything. The farmer owns us, he says. Just about that. In that page 78, top lines are there, isn't it? They are afraid without even having the chance to train properly as teacher. That last paragraph is there. That is again a political reference where the man is telling these people, the comrades and the villagers who is visiting him. Page number 77. All that last paragraph is about what all discrimination they are facing, what all things that have been denied to them. These are being discussed there, isn't it? It's very clear there. That is a section. That is a reference there. Okay, that much. I think that's
Okay,
what permit part also, hmm? Where she is asked for the permit. They are a set of people. That day, when they went to visit him in the prison, it was actually they had to sleep on the floor of the railway station. they do not have any restroom or something like that. This is again segregation. Okay, all these things I think would suffice for that answer. Then
Okay, next question. Isn't the wife a little bit selfish because he was working for the country and she was waiting for him to be the same one?
I think the best way to find the answer would be to place yourself in the woman's place, woman's shoes. What will you think first? It is, I think it is a personal question. I mean, you have to answer, you have to find out. If you say she is selfish. If you say, if you think the husband, if I tell you the husband is not responsible, why? He has a responsibility towards his father, his family, his wife, I mean his fiance and his kids. Where is he to do those things? Nation is there, but what about that? If I ask that, I'm not asking, but that is also a picture to be thought of. And you cannot say that the woman is, I don't know, maybe she is coming back. I have both kinds of things. You know, in the end, she is thinking about the whole valley becoming small things. She is thinking to herself. She needs time, isn't it? I feel that she needs time to accommodate herself to all these things. That is how I thought. Yeah. Next.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sister. I think we are almost done with the question answer part. Sister, would you like to wind up the session or would you like to add any other points?
This reading this lesson is very important, and I think if you just listen to this class, you would be able to answer almost all the questions asked behind in the question answer section of in the textbook. And I would request you all to go and read this lesson. That is very important. And in the end, I would like to thank all of you. That is the government of Kerala, the Department of General and Higher Education, and the SAP portal, and all the people who have coordinated these classes. And also, I thank you on my behalf for incorporating me, and I thank all the students who attended this class. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much, sister, for this wonderful and fruitful session. And I must say that you made the session very simple, precise, and it was beautifully rendered. Thank you so much. And dear participants, kindly note that the editor video of this particular session will be available in ASAP YouTube channel by next week. So those who haven't attended today's session or those who want to attend the session once more can visit the YouTube channel. So once again, thank you, sister, and thank you, participants, for your participation. Thank you.